They say betrayal cuts deepest when it comes from someone close. But when that betrayal gets caught on tape, oh, buckle up. Because apparently, Candace Owens just dropped what she claims is a phone call proving Erica Kirk's betrayal. And let's just say, this is no polite Sunday tea spill. This is nuclear. Now, before you grab your popcorn, let's rewind. Because this story didn't start with a phone call. It started with a bullet. The day the rally turned into a nightmare. It's September 10th at Utah Valley University. Blue skies, a brass band kind of afternoon. The crowd's huge, shoulder to shoulder, clutching iPhones like torches at a digital rally. Everyone's here for him. Charlie Kirk, the guy who could roast a liberal and fundraise off the ashes in a single breath. He's pacing the stage, sleeves rolled up, microphone wired like he's on a mission from God and YouTube's algorithm. He cracks a joke about freedom, throws in a punchline about pronouns. The audience eats it up. For a moment, it feels like every soundbite, every cheer, every flash from a camera is building towards something, until it isn't. Then, pop. Not the kind that comes from a balloon or fireworks. It's sharp, metallic, unnatural. For half a heartbeat, nobody moves. Someone laughs nervously. Then Charlie staggers. The smile fades. The mic clatters. There's this horrible second of silence, like the whole campus forgets to breathe before the screams start. Phones drop, live streams tilt, comments flood. Is this real? Fake? Scripted? But it's real. Blood stains the collar of his white shirt, blooming too fast. Security rushes the stage, students dive behind benches. Someone's praying, someone else is vlogging. The camera keeps rolling. Of course it does. And America watches in 4K as the founder of Turning Point collapses into chaos. By the time the sirens wail, the narrative's already out of the government's hands. Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it this week, is on fire. Half the country's typing condolences, the other half's typing conspiracies. Within minutes, hashtags like #Charlie's last speech and #Utah assassination start trending. What was supposed to be a political rally has turned into a crime scene, one we're all invited to live stream. And there, in that split second between applause and horror, something else is born. A vacuum, the kind that swallows reason, devours context, and spits out theories faster than facts can catch up. Because when a symbol falls on camera, people don't ask why. They ask who benefits. And if the shot was the spark, the firestorm that followed had one name written all over it. Candace Owens enters the scene like a tornado. If the Utah shooting was the spark, Candace Owens was the explosion. Before the blood even dried, she was live. Eyeliner sharp, McHot, and vengeance in her voice. Her first tweet hit the internet like a punch. Everyone stop what you're doing and pray for Charlie Kirk. But beneath those words, you could already feel the tremor. The kind of tone that says, I'm not just grieving, I'm coming for answers. By sundown, Candace wasn't just mourning, she was mobilizing. Every post, every soundbite, every breaking update felt less like condolences and more like a declaration of war. She wasn't lighting candles, she was lighting matches. Cut to her studio, dimly lit, American flag behind her, expression locked somewhere between heartbreak and rage. She starts her podcast not with tears, but with a question that could make even her own followers flinch. Who called the hit on Charlie? The internet gasped. The word hit turned the tragedy into a mystery, and the mystery into a movement. Candace wasn't implying corruption, she was spelling it out letter by letter. She called it an inside job, an operation, a setup. And as her voice cracked between fury and faith, people started listening differently. This wasn't the Candace Owens from the Turning Point rallies, the one who sparred with Charlie on panels and roasted college students. This was something else. This was Candace Unchained. She dropped claim after claim that there was a private jet leaving Provo an hour after the shooting, that FBI agents were handling the case too quickly, that the shooter's background didn't add up. Each theory came like a gut punch, not fully proven, but too juicy for the internet to ignore. Her followers called her the truth teller America doesn't deserve. Her critics called her the chaos engine with a podcast. Either way, she was trending again, and this time, she wasn't sharing the spotlight. By day 2, Candace had effectively turned her mourning into a manifesto. The hashtags multiplied. #justice for Charlie #who called the hit #Erica knows. because in every Candace monologue there was one name she didn't have to say, but everyone heard it anyway. Erica, the widow, the calm, collected wife who hadn't shed a tear on camera. Candace didn't accuse her outright, not yet, but she didn't have to. Every pause, every raised eyebrow, every "I just find it strange" was gasoline for a fire the internet was more than happy to keep burning. And just like that, the internet split into two tribes: the Erica defenders, mourning a wife who just lost her husband, and the Candace believers, convinced she was peeling back a cover-up that reached far beyond Utah. Candace had done it again, turned tragedy into traction, heartbreak into headlines, and loss into leverage. But if you thought Candace's words were the problem, you haven't heard the call yet, because one leaked phone recording just turned her suspicions into a full-blown betrayal story. The leaked call that shook everything. Okay, so grab your popcorn, because this is where the story mutates from drama to pure political thriller. A few days after Candace Owens dropped her "Who Called the Hit" bombshell, an audio clip leaked online, supposedly a recorded phone call between Erica Kirk and a Turning Point executive. And if it's real, it doesn't just add fuel to the fire, it detonates it. The clip is grainy, but you can hear a woman's voice, eerily calm, polished, unmistakably media trained. It's allegedly Erica, and what she says, well, it sent the internet into cardiac arrest. We just need to keep the message consistent. Charlie's passing has to stay about unity, not chaos. No speculation, no blame. We can't let this turn into a circus. Now, pause right there. Keep the message consistent, not chaos. You don't talk about message consistency unless there's something to manage. Cue the dramatic irony. The more she tried to avoid chaos, the more chaotic things got. Candace Owens wasted 0 seconds. She played that clip on her podcast like it was a mixtape from hell. "I'm not saying this proves anything," she said, her tone sharp as glass, but what kind of widow talks about messaging strategy hours after her husband is gunned down on stage? Boom! Just like that, the internet split again. Half the people shouted fake audio. The other half screamed cover up, louder than a campaign rally speaker. Even worse, some self-proclaimed audio forensics experts claimed the call matched Erica's voice, 98% certainty. Others said it was AI-generated deepfake bait. And of course, in the age of misinformation, both theories went viral. And you know what Candace did? She doubled down. She invited the chaos. She told her audience, if they're trying to bury this audio, you better make it trend. Within hours, #EricaCall was everywhere. Twitter, sorry X, was eating it alive. TikTok edits layered it with eerie music, slow zooms, and captions like, "The calm before the confession." And then came the plot twist. A second clip surfaced. This time it wasn't a phone call, it was an alleged voicemail from Erica to a Turning Point board member. Her voice was shaky, urgent. "I told them it's handled. Please make sure Candace doesn't get access to the donor list. She's unstable." Oh boy, that one line, "she's unstable," was all Candace needed to turn her grief into a crusade. In her next broadcast, she practically shouted, "You don't get to assassinate my friend and call me unstable for asking questions." By that point, we weren't watching a tragedy anymore. We were watching the Candace versus Erica show, live, unfiltered, and monetized. And here's where it gets juicier, because this phone call wasn't just drama for drama's sake, it shifted alliances. Turning Point donors reportedly started pulling back. Sponsors demanded statements. Even right-wing media figures started picking sides. Tucker Carlson went cryptic, calling it a sad reflection of what happens when movements eat their own. Meanwhile, smaller conservative creators openly joined #Team Candace, saying she was the only one with guts to go after the truth. But let's be real, in today's influencer politics, truth is just another brand. And Candace, she knows how to brand chaos. But just when it looked like the internet couldn't get any crazier, someone leaked screenshots, texts between Candace and Charlie from just weeks before his death. And those messages, let's just say they changed everything. The phone call that sparked the fire. Let's rewind to the exact moment everything went from speculation to straight up explosive. Because before the text leaks, before the statements and counter statements, there was the call. And not just any call, the now infamous Candace Erica phone call. The one that Candace Owens herself called the moment the mask slipped. The setup, late night call, early morning chaos. It was reportedly late, around 11:47 p.m., just 2 days after Charlie Kirk's death. Candace claimed she was pacing in her studio office, unable to sleep, when she decided to call Erica Kirk. She later told her audience, "I wasn't calling as a podcaster. I was calling as a friend who needed answers." According to Candace's team, the call was recorded for her protection, and what was said on that line turned into the fuel for weeks of online chaos. Here's how the leaked audio allegedly begins. You can hear the quiet hum of background static, and then Erica's voice, calm, flat, almost rehearsed. Erica: "Candace, I really wish you'd stop making this harder." Candace: "Making this harder? Erica, your husband was executed in front of the world, and you're talking about PR optics." That single exchange, just 15 seconds, was enough to ignite the internet. Candace claimed that what followed was a confession wrapped in denial. She said Erica's tone changed halfway through. Not grief-stricken, not defensive, but managerial, cold. Erica: "There are conversations you don't understand. There are people you shouldn't cross, Candace." Candace: "People I shouldn't cross? Are we talking about donors or handlers? Or are we talking about whoever called the hit?" And then silence, a long pause, followed by what sounds like Erica exhaling sharply and saying, "Erica, you've said enough, Candace. Just don't call me again." The explosion that followed Candace didn't release the full call right away. She teased it. She dropped a 40-second audio snippet on her podcast intro, letting her audience hear just enough to go feral. In her next episode, titled "The Call That Changes Everything," she set the internet ablaze. She looked straight into the camera and said, "You'll hear the truth for yourself. I didn't make this up. I didn't twist anything. I called the grieving widow and got a political operative instead." That framing was genius. It instantly flipped public sympathy. In under 24 hours, #Erica the actress started trending. People were replaying the clip in slow motion, analyzing the tone, the breathing, even the tiny clicks on Erica's end, claiming it sounded like she was on speakerphone in a meeting room. Conspiracy channels went wild with that theory. Was Erica alone, or was she being monitored during the call? The aftermath, damage control versus narrative control. Erica's PR team scrambled. Within hours, they issued a firm denial. The audio circulating online is selectively edited and misleading. Mrs. Kirk has never been in contact with Candace Owens since the tragedy and would never speak in such a way. These claims are deeply hurtful and false. But here's where it got real messy. Independent analysts started comparing the voice in the leaked clip to Erica's public interviews, and the match rate from AI voice comparison tools came back at 97%. That number hit social media like a nuclear bomb. Even though it wasn't official or verified, the damage was done. Candace posted on X, Twitter, "They said I fabricated the call. The science says otherwise. I stand by every second of it." And that tweet was retweeted over 600,000 times in less than 10 hours. How Candace weaponized the moment. Candace didn't stop at exposing the call. She owned it. She used the controversy as her proof that she was touching a nerve, that powerful people were trying to shut her down. She even made a full-length documentary teaser called "The Call, the Silence Behind the Smile." It featured eerie black and white visuals, with the real audio snippet playing over slow motion clips of Erica Kirk walking through a memorial crowd. The tagline, "When the truth rings once, the powerful pull the plug." That was cinematic marketing genius, and it worked. Her subscriber count jumped, her Patreon exploded, and for her followers, that phone call became the Rosetta Stone of the conspiracy, the proof that everything Candace had been saying about the machine was real. The reality, what we actually know. Here's the uncomfortable truth. There's no confirmed evidence that the call was genuine. The timestamps are murky. The audio file was never independently verified, but in the court of virality, facts are optional, and that's where Candace thrives. She doesn't need hard evidence. She just needs an audience ready to believe she's the only one brave enough to speak. And whether you love her or loathe her, that's her power. Candace doesn't just report drama, she becomes it. But if Candace had a match the next day, she dropped a flamethrower. Candace goes full detective mode. Alright, grab your coffee, your popcorn, and maybe a corkboard with some red string, because this is where Candace Owens stops being a commentator and turns into the political Sherlock Holmes of the century. From podcaster to prosecutor, Candace didn't just react, she mobilized. Within days of that phone call leak, she announced something wild on her show. If the media won't investigate this, then I will. And she meant it. She launched what she called the Truth Task Force, a mix between a digital army of fans, a research collective, and let's be honest, a chaos engine with Wi-Fi. They started dissecting everything: phone records, flight logs, public donations, even deleted Instagram stories from Erica Kirk's inner circle. Her first target? A private jet that allegedly left Utah hours after Charlie Kirk's death, with no listed passengers. Candace looked into the tail number N88KG, matched it to a Shell LLC registered in Delaware, and surprise, surprise, it traced back to one of Turning Point USA's major donors. She teased the finding on her show. Private jet, no passengers, no manifest, no questions asked. You tell me that's not suspicious? And her audience lost their minds. The digital forensics phase. This was the part where she turned her fan base into unpaid investigators. She told them, "If you've got a laptop, you've got power. Let's see what they're hiding." Within 48 hours, her followers uncovered timestamps, metadata, and photo inconsistencies. Someone even noticed that Erica's memorial speech video had 3 jump cuts in under 40 seconds, as if parts were edited out. That became the next viral theory. What was removed from Erica's original speech and why? To make things even more cinematic, Candace started presenting her evidence like she was hosting a Netflix docuseries. Dim lights, dramatic music, slow zooms. They said I was crazy for connecting the dots, but here's the thing about dots: they exist for a reason. She dropped screenshots like breadcrumbs, donor transactions, digital maps of Provo, Utah, cross-referenced timestamps between Erica's PR firm statements and when the FBI's press release went out. The implication? Someone was feeding information from inside the investigation. The call me crazy but I'm right moment. Then came the board. Candace posted a behind-the-scenes photo of her office whiteboard, covered in photos, lines, sticky notes, and what looked suspiciously like a mini FBI map. She captioned it, "If I disappear, you'll know why." That one post broke the algorithm. Every major outlet picked it up, from Fox to Rolling Stone to BuzzFeed, turning her from a grieving friend into the main character of a political whodunit. And Candace leaned in. She wasn't backing down, she was doubling down. They say I'm unhinged. Maybe, but you'd be unhinged too if your best friend's death didn't add up. Cue the thunder sound effect and 1.5 million new followers. The phone records and the hidden number. Next, Candace unveiled what she called the missing link. Phone records showing a blocked number that called Charlie Kirk's phone multiple times the day before his death. She alleged that the number matched the general area code of Palm Beach, Florida, home to several conservative mega donors, and of course, one Mar-a-Lago. Now, I'm not saying this ties back to anyone specific, she smirked, but the area code sure does ring familiar. Cue the audience gasps. It was the perfect cocktail of plausible deniability and viral insinuation. Her 10 Facts They Don't Want You to Know series. To keep the fire burning, Candace dropped a YouTube mini-series, each episode titled something like 10 Things They're Not Telling You About the Kirk Case. She'd go point by point. 1. The unlogged private flight. 2. The conflicting timestamps. 3. The edited memorial video. 4. The missing ballistics report. 5. The silence from Turning Point's inner circle. 6. The mystery Palm Beach calls. 7. The fake eyewitness Twitter accounts. 8. The unexplained offshore donations to the Kirk Foundation. 9. The FBI's vague press statement. 10. And the kicker, Erica's financial disclosures, which showed a sudden $500,000 transfer days before the tragedy. Each fact came with a mix of screenshots, speculation, and Candace's signature smirk, and every video ended with her saying coincidence or cover-up. You decide. She didn't have to prove anything, she just had to keep the mystery alive. The fallout mainstream media called it conspiracy exploitation. Her followers called it bravery, but either way, it worked. The Kirk investigation became the biggest online political saga since QAnon, and Candace, she wasn't just reporting it, she was directing it. You can call me crazy, but history calls people like me right just a few years later. But just when you thought she'd reached her limit, Candace gets her hands on something that changes everything. A leaked text thread between her, Charlie, and Erica, and what's inside might just be the smoking gun. Erica fights back. The Grace Under Fire speech days later. At a candlelight vigil, Erica stepped up to the mic, calm, composed, measured. Charlie wouldn't want vengeance, she said. He would want truth. Some called it classy, others called it calculated. Even Tucker Carlson described it as the most composed speech since Jackie Kennedy. But here's the twist. Candace reposted the clip with 3 words: grace under guilt. That one post split the internet in half, and the war began. Right-wing civil war, Candace versus the establishment. Turning Point USA insiders tried to calm things down. Didn't work. Conservative media started picking sides. Tucker, Megyn Kelly, Vivek Ramaswamy, all paying tribute to Charlie while pretending not to side with anyone. But the undertone was obvious. They wanted to move on. Candace didn't. She went scorched earth. They want this buried because the truth leads to the money. Her fans started digging up donations, flight logs, even security schedules. Every new discovery only fed the beast. But what if this wasn't just about grief or power? What if it was about secrets buried in plain sight? The Hamptons meeting, the smoking gun. Candace alleged that billionaire Bill Amann met Charlie weeks before the incident, warning him to tone down his stance on Israel. Amann hit back with text receipts. Totally friendly. At no time have I ever threatened Charlie, he said. Even Netanyahu had to issue 2 denials. But online, every denial was gasoline. The louder they deny, the guiltier they sound, one commenter wrote. By this point, the truth didn't matter. Perception did. And just when it looked like Candace had reached her peak, she pulled another rabbit out of her podcast. The Secret Letter and the Erica Email Theory. On episode 187 of her show, Candace claimed she'd obtained a private correspondence between Erica and a Turning Point board member. The supposed subject line, "End this before it spreads." Erica's team denied it, but the timing, right after the FBI labeled the shooting a lone gunman event, made it look shady. Now even insiders whispered, maybe there's more to this. The hashtag #justice for Charlie hit 15 million views on X. Comment sections became war zones. Erica supporters versus Candace believers. And in classic internet fashion, when people run out of facts, they start making memes. Meme warfare, mayhem, and the message that broke the internet. Within days, AI voice leaks, fake screenshots, and edited clips went viral. Half the country was convinced Erica had something to hide. The other half was convinced Candace had lost her mind. Even Joe Rogan chimed in mid-episode. How does an untrained guy hit a moving target 200 yards away and disappear? That's not random, that's tactical. The chaos became the content. Erica's silence became her curse. Candace's rage became her brand. And America just sat there doom scrolling, popcorn in hand. So here's where we are. 1 shot, 1 widow, 1 crusader, and 1 phone call that might or might not prove betrayal. Maybe it's the biggest scandal of the year. Maybe it's just grief, weaponized for clicks. Either way, the truth has turned into theater, and everyone's got front row seats. Was Charlie Kirk taken out by enemies abroad, betrayed by insiders, or undone by someone who knew him best? Let's hear what you think. Drop your theory in the comments. Because this story, it's nowhere near over. And remember, in the world of power and politics, every friendship has a fine print. If you're still here, you're part of the 1% who actually think before they click. So do the smart thing. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because trust me, this saga is just getting started, and you won't want to miss the next leak.